Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, and welcome to this week's Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. Podcast for business owners, professionals who invest in real estate. It's what I do, it's what you do, and it's how we do it that makes a difference, right? We generally don't do all the no money down owner financing stuff. You can, it's nothing, not against it. It's just, I will tell you, when you're able to get on a cash basis, you're going to grow much further, much faster. Okay. Get the better properties, get the better deals, come in with cash. You can always later on pull your money out, remodel, refinance. There are lots of strategies, but the main thing here is we buy decent properties and we have a positive track record. So I know because I did it the other way before. Okay, lots of gray hair to show for all that stuff. So, in any case, if you haven't signed up for the podcast, feel free to do so. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, downloaded in 50 some odd countries. And the best part of all this is we have an entire network of investor agents we've trained around the U.S. and parts of Canada to help you and I invest. They're not traditional agents. They're not looking at the pretty carpet and the chandeliers. They're looking at balance sheets and spreadsheets before we look at a property. This is why we like them. And I know that they're good because I train them. All right. So in any case, they're certified investor agents. Go to realestatewithgarywilson.com. Up top, click on members area. If you're already a member, you know what to do. You go to the left and you log in and you get all the goodies and spreadsheets and calculators and books and reach out to those agents. If you're not, go to the right and you can get a free look for 30 days and grab yourself a couple of investor agents there. And they're only on there if they've been trained and certified. They know what they're doing and makes our lives a lot easier. So in any case, without further ado, we have a special guest, Ben Golden, all the way from the great metropolis of beautiful Alabama. Okay. And he's going to talk to us about, particular strategies when it comes to dealing with the IRS relative to if you have challenges in different areas of life. So first off, Ben, I just want to say thanks for being here. I know you're busy, successful people are, and I really appreciate you taking your valuable time to share your expertise with our followers.
Gary, I really appreciate you having me today. Thank you so much.
Glad to do it. So first off, hope you're well and safe and healthy and everything good in life. And if you could, if you don't mind, a little bit different philosophy here. If you wouldn't mind just painting a picture for us of who is Ben Golden, a little bit of background, be colorful if you like, don't be shy. Everybody here is, we're all family. And but to give a little context to us, and then we can jump into some case studies and some examples and things like that,
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a father of two, been married for 20 years now. I focus primarily on helping people with IRS problems. And I'm also a national speaker for tax planning, doing very sophisticated tax planning as well. Right now, our focus is helping people with IRS problems and getting them out of difficult situations. It's usually great people that get into difficult situations. So, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I sold my accounting firm 7 years ago. I own a construction company. I do railroad construction as well. So, I've done a lot, seen a lot, and I help people because I had my own tax problems. Back in the day, I had an IRS agent come to me and say, Ben, you have to pay your clients $171,000 tax bill. And, I was devastated. And how could I go home and tell my wife and two little children and say, IRS is going to take our retirement, So, the IRS really pushed me to pay my clients' tax debt and, attempted to bully me into doing that. And that's really where I got the passion from, to help people, because I've been on the other side of the table. I know the feelings, I know the fear, I know the devastation that goes along with, as well as the embarrassment that goes along with these things,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been in business for 35 years now. It sounds funny even saying it. and built, 7 different businesses and things like that. And for the long time, Ben, it was like, my gosh, I'm doing everything right. I've never received a single notice from the IRS. I've, hit my mark every year and pay all the bills and pay the taxes and everything. And all of a sudden one year I got we call it a nastygram. I'm like, holy crap, this is for what's going on here. Why, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Did I miss something? So what do you tell people when they get that, they're calling us, hey, Ben, the IRS is sending me this threatening letter. And they are threatening because they're so bland, and they tell you, they're just telling you the rules. But when you hear the rules sound pretty harsh. But the reality is, a lot of times it's not that bad. But what do you tell people? Then they ask you, what do I do? Like, what's the first thing you do for people when they come with that question or call you up?
Gary, you would be surprised at how many people don't actually open those letters from the IRS. They see the IRS and they're like, they get frozen. They're frozen of fear, frozen of what happens next. They're frozen of, what do I do? Open the letters. Let's deal with it. Let's move forward. Fear is like a mile long and a mile high and paper thin. You got to step through and press through that fear. As long as you're attempting to make an effort, the IRS is not going to go, full steam ahead on you and levy all of your accounts and take all of your accounts receivable and garnish all your wages and things like that. Look, the IRS wants somebody that's going to be cordial back to them and say, hey, listen, this is where we are and this is what we need to do. Now, I'll also tell you this right here too, Gary, don't talk to the IRS by yourself, because a lot of people think, oh, well, if I just tell them what's going on, they'll be fair. Do you want to know, Gary, what's fair about the tax code?
What's that?
Absolutely nothing. Nothing is fair. We have tax rules and regulations based off of, pressure on Congress, based off of, who has the best ability to, deal with Congress and deal with their statesmen and things of that nature. That's why we have preferential treatment in the real estate markets, because of the lobby. So there's nothing fair about taxes. You need to make sure that you deal with a professional, that a professional helps you with your taxes. Don't attempt them yourself, especially when you get more sophisticated with your taxes and with real estate and things of that nature. Because if you do them yourself, you're bound to make a mistake because you don't know all the rules.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. That first time I got a letter, I didn't know. And I called them. I said, well, can you fill me in here? What's this really all about? Am I being audited, or I got to read? And if the guy said, actually, sir, we're just looking for clarification. We just want a little more information. And he said, just send us what we're asking for there, and you'll be just fine. That was the first time. Now, later on, I got a full blown audit, an entire return, because I sold a big building. It was a big building I own, 78 unit apartment complex, and sold it. And they didn't contact me until 3 years later.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's kind of freaky. And but they said that big sale, because it was such a big change in my return, triggered a full blown audit. And I'll tell you what, I won't even go into details. I'll keep everybody in suspense and tell you what the result was at the end. It's going to be surprising, but but in any case, what I'm trying to find out here is, I talk to people every single day. I teach people, train them, coach them, and sometimes this kind of stuff will come up. And one example is, like, for me personally, I commute back and forth across the U.S.-Canadian border with some regularity, right? And I've had people, say, well, do you do business in Canada? It's like, no, I really don't. I do business in the U.S. I just go to Canada for different reasons. Yes, I talk on the phone in Canada to students and clients, but I'm not actually like earning any money up there. And somebody said, well, the reason I'm asking is so-and-so was Canadian, went to the States and made some money in the States and didn't report it on their Canadian return. And the States and Canada are reciprocal, and they took his passport away, so he couldn't go back in the country anymore. And all this stuff. So I don't know if any of that's true. But what do you say to people when they have those kind of questions? Because, what about like driver's licenses? There's like the Nexus cards you get for traveling in the air, and you go to the short line, all these different global trusted traveler advantages. Can they actually touch all those things? Can they touch those other parts of our lives? I guess is the question.
Yeah. So a part of the ACA of 2010 and the Affordable Care Act of 2010, the administration enacted what you call a decertification of passports if you owe more than $52,000. So for the past 10 years, 11 years now, the IRS says if you owe $52,000, we are not going to renew your passport. So absolutely it can affect you. And there are certain ways to get that taken care of. But I would encourage people, if you owe the IRS, don't wait. One of the things that the IRS absolutely abhors or doesn't prefer or hates is the fact that people do not respond to them. And procrastination and non-response is one of the biggest problems, because the IRS then thinks, oh, well, if they're not going to respond, they're guilty.
Yeah.
It's one of the places it's one of the institutions that says, hey, you're guilty. Now prove your innocence.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the key. You need to make sure that you know the rules, or talk to a professional and get a professional's advice as to what you're doing. And if you do owe the IRS, open that line of communication with that professional and have that professional help you. If you are silent, then guess what? You can't prove your innocence if you don't have someone advocate for you.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And the good news is for me, in the two instances I've experienced, in both cases, I definitely did not procrastinate, because I wanted whatever it was to go away as fast as I can make it go away. I mean, when you run a business, you're already up to your eyeballs every single day with all kinds of stuff to do.
You needed to get that spotlight off of you. So, yes. and that's one of the things we've always heard the thought, when something happens, you either fight, flight, or freeze. With you wanted to hit it head on. That probably speaks a lot to who you are as a person. There's a lot of people that just freeze and do nothing. And then there's a lot of people that just absolutely run from it. I did a presentation not too long ago on audits, and 67% of all audits have no response. People don't even respond to the audit. So they just flight, they run, no help, Yeah. And of audits, 89% of all audits have a change. I feel like that is because people don't respond.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I when I first got contacted, I thought to myself, did I do something wrong? And I knew obviously I didn't purposely do anything wrong, but I thought, did I make a mistake, like something I didn't know what I didn't know, that kind of a thing. And I thought, well, only way to find out is to call them and ask them, and maybe it's if I'll learn something, it's easy to answer. It might cost me a few dollars and a penalty or interest or something. First time around, nothing. It was just they needed more information. The second one, what I said, was a full blown audit. I did it, right away. I called my tax accountant. I said, hey, Jerry, we're being audited on one entire return, and it looks a little more official and bigger than the one from several years ago, which was just a letter. And I sent him everything, and he pretty much took it from there. The thing about it is our relationship. Been with him for 24 years now, I guess. And he said, what, Gary, this is just part of the service. I'm going to take care of this, so you won't have to lift a finger and you won't have to spend a dime. And I was like, woo, that's one less thing to worry about.
That's great.
But I'll still keep you in suspense on the result in that one. But back to this. So let's say you do owe the IRS, and it's like I had another client one time, ended up with an additional whatever it was, $56,000 he told me that he owed the IRS. because of something he did during the year that was generated additional revenue for him. And he didn't pay anything more than he was already paying already, like on a quarterly basis. And put in that situation is like, you know what, I don't have $56,000. Do you think I can refinance a property, sell a property? He was asking me for that kind of, I said, look, talk to your tax accountant first. I said, you might not have to sell anything, might not have to refinance anything. But what if somebody doesn't have the financial resources? Let's say you get audited and you determine, yeah, you actually owe more money. What do you tell somebody that just doesn't have it? How do they, other than credit cards, what can they do,
Yeah, and we don't encourage people to go to credit cards and take a really high interest loan in order to pay a lower interest loan. All of the interest is non-deductible anyway. So look, that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to look at your ability to pay. So we do what we call a financial analysis on what the IRS thinks you can pay. If you have an automobile and you pay $1,500 a month for that automobile, well, look, the IRS just says, hey, that's too much. You have too large of a vehicle. We're only going to allow $508, for example, instead of the $1,500. So, what we do is we look at your ability to pay. We do a financial analysis and say, okay, based off of our experience, and our expertise, this is how much we feel you'll owe, and we can get you into this payment plan. So that's what we need to shoot for. But above that, we need to make sure you're protected. We want to make sure the IRS doesn't come and levy you or garnish your wages or something like that. In the interim, while we're waiting for the IRS to agree to some type of payment plan. Yeah. I've had people come and say, well, I owe too much money for a payment plan. Well, I'm working on a client right now that owes just under $3 million to the IRS.
Wow.
And guess what? We're going to get a payment plan. So if somebody says that's impossible, you're not going to be able to do that. Okay. Thank you for your information. Go talk to another professional. And, there needs to be a financial analysis done prior to you figuring out how much you can pay the IRS. And honestly, Gary, sometimes you do need to go get and refinance either a personal residence or some real estate. I would prefer to see a client refinance some real estate that they own, so the interest is deductible on their tax return.
Yeah.
That's what I would do because then now you're making the interest a deduction and you paid the IRS back. You took the spotlight off of you, and now you can focus on your business again.
Yeah, and right now, mortgage interest rates, they just went up a little bit, but they're still, 4% or less. My gosh, that's just unbelievably low,
Well, let's talk about penalties, for example, for a moment. Yeah. Let's say that you owe the IRS, let's call it $60,000. And you say, oh no, I owe the IRS. What am I going to do? I can't file my tax return next year because I owe them money. That's not true. Okay. Every single year is considered a bubble. Okay. And bubbles don't normally touch each other. Sometimes they do when they're carryovers and things like that. But because the bubbles don't touch each other, if you owe money for 2018, you need to file your 2020 tax return on time, because if you don't, the late filing penalty is 5% per month of what you owe to a maximum of 25%. Mm-hmm. Okay. A late payment penalty is 0.5%. And these are penalties. These are not interest. So it's a late payment penalty is 0.5% per month to a maximum of 25%. So if you wait 5 years, you've just added a 50% penalty on you for that 1 year. If you don't file.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure, I would like to make sure that, number one, you file your taxes on time every single year, even if you can't pay them. If you can't pay them, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But file them. Make sure you file them every single year, because remember, the bubbles don't touch.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, all right, I'll tell you what, when it comes to payment, then definitely you be financially savvy, take the least painful approach. And you're right. I know there was a couple of years ago, I sold a business, and turns out the lady who was running it for me didn't. This is something simple. She didn't file the last 2 quarters employer payroll quarterly returns. I had no clue. I had sold the business, moved, all kinds of stuff, and to get a call several years later saying, "Hey, you owe us $192." I said, "Can you please explain why?" He said, "Yeah, we sent the notice. This is state level. Sent the notice to the old business." I said, "Well, I'm no longer there. They unfortunately never contacted me, let me know there was notices in the mail to me." And I said, "Can I appeal the interest?" And he said, "Ironically, it's all penalty. It's no interest, and the penalty was only because of the late filing. Had nothing to do with the dollar amount. It was a late filing. $192 because it was missed the date." So
now you mentioned payroll. I will tell you, payroll is a difficult one because there's several different parts of payroll, and a lot of people say, "Oh, well, this is a company. I have an LLC. I have an incorporation. The IRS can't come after me personally." Well, that's not really true.
Mm-hmm.
There are some taxes that you have in your business. The IRS can burst through the seal of the business in order to come after you personally, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I have a veil between me and the business," right? Well, that's not really the truth. The IRS can come after you personally, just like the state can come after you for sales tax. The IRS can come after you for some of the payroll taxes, and then now you owe the payroll taxes personally if you're a responsible party. So, there's more to it. And do you owe it? Should you pay it? Can you pay it? Are you responsible for it? Those are all questions that you need to start asking as soon as you possibly can, because when I deal with somebody that owes money, the first question I ask is, "Do you owe it?" And they say, "Well, yeah, I owe the money." Or, "No, I was audited. I need to fight it." Or, "Can you pay it?" And those are really the 2 questions that we have to deal with. Do I owe it? Or, can I pay it?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Okay, good subject. So you talked about the IRS, the fact that they can pierce the corporate veil, but can they, if they do come to you personally, because you're actually the owner of the LLC, can they seize your personal assets like cars and boats and houses? And what about like retirement funds that are supposedly protected from everything? What about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I had a client last year that came to me, and the IRS seized $60,000 out of his personal retirement account before I got involved. One of the main reasons is he didn't respond. And the difficult thing is he was in a community property state, and you already know what this means. That means that the wife had ownership of half of that, and she didn't know the taxes. And now the IRS took $60,000, and now he owes his wife $30,000 or ex-wife. So,
talk about adding salt to the wound,
kicking you while you're down.
Lord.
Right?
Yeah.
So, that happened to a client. I have another client that the IRS forced the sale of a secondary automobile, and they can do that.
Wow. Okay.
So they had three automobiles. The third automobile was driven by their daughter. The IRS says you don't need more than 2, and the IRS forced the sale of that third vehicle, which of course the third vehicle was the only vehicle that didn't have a loan on it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Boy,
I've even seen the IRS request that somebody go and get money off of a credit card. I mean, I've had the IRS come back and take a secondary home that somebody had that they had it rented out, and seize it as well. So, I mean, if you don't owe the IRS and you don't do anything about it, yes, they absolutely can come and seize assets that you own. Now, will they seize your personal primary residence? If this was in the late 90s, I would say absolutely. But these days, they really don't come after homes now. Your
Yeah,
personal residence, should I say?
that's good. Well, that's good. Well, I'll tell you what, if you could, like let's say somebody gets a notice, um, maybe do like a case study. You can obviously change the names to protect the innocent, but like walk us through sequence of steps. You get something in the mail. What's the first thing to do? I mean, obviously, I'm thinking they should call you, but take us from there. Like, what's the sequence of events and steps?
So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get a hold of your tax provider, or you need to go hold of a professional that way they can be the advocate on your behalf. I'm a full believer that, you are best at what you do. So because you're best at what you do, you need to have people around you that are best at what they do. You're a real estate guru. You need to have somebody that's an insurance guru. You need to have somebody that's a health insurance person. You need to have, if you own a business, you need to have an attorney. If you are dealing in real estate, you need to have an attorney. There are all these things that you need to have in place that makes your chain strong. Mm-hmm. So you need to have your accountant. You need to have all these people that you rely on. Well, go to the people that know and you can rely on in order to get the answers that you need. Don't talk to the IRS yourself. They are trained in order to ask questions to find out more information about you than what you really want them to know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are ways that, when people start talking to the IRS, they just tell them their whole lives.
Yeah.
This is why, because, this is why, because, this is why, this is why, this is why, this is what's going on. And the IRS they're just writing all this information down so they may be able to use it against you later. Go to a professional. If it's large enough and you feel like that, there's no way you can pay this back at one time, you need to go to a professional and seek their help. No professional is the same. Sometimes you need an attorney. Sometimes you need a CPA. Sometimes you need an EA, an enrolled agent. We have all of those on staff. So it really depends on your situation. There's a big difference between somebody that owes the IRS $8,000 and somebody that owes the IRS $80,000 and somebody that owes the IRS $800,000.
Yeah.
There's different approaches that we take for each one of those scenarios,
Yeah.
So Number one, open it. Number two, seek a professional in order to get your questions answered, whatever they may be, and let them help you and let them advocate on your behalf.
Yeah. Well, I love it. So back to, I guess I'll reveal the result of my big audit. And thankfully I did a lot of what you just described there. Our first thing was a college area, and he gave me the same advice you said. He said, you know what? You only give them what they ask for. Don't try to explain everything. He said, look, if they ask what time it is, just tell them what time it is. Don't tell them how the clock was made,
Exactly.
And I followed his advice because my natural tendency is to want to talk and explain things and all that. And at the end of the day, the lady came back. She first came to me in person in my office, met and collect, boxes of information. My tax returns were quite large at the time with all the businesses and all the properties. Things are much simpler now because I'm sort of in a semi-retirement mode. But in any case, she did. She came. I think she called once or twice more. It took a year, by the way. Came to the office one more time, and I wasn't living there anymore, by the way. So I had to keep coming back, but it wasn't a big thing. And at the very end, there was no net change to the return after a year. I was shocked. I thought for sure they're not going to spend all this time, energy, and money for nothing. At the end of the year, it was a no net change to the return. I didn't owe anything, didn't have to change the return, and I simply just followed the advice that you just given me. So for everybody listening, guys, I tell you, when somebody like Ben Golden talks, definitely listen. He's been there. And everything you said, Ben, is exactly what my experience was, and it worked out perfectly. And the funny thing is I don't have that fear anymore because I know generally you're just looking for information and clarity, So, but before it gets too late here, I know we're getting short on time. How can people get a hold of you? Because we got people in all over the U.S. and even some foreigners that invest in the U.S. are probably thinking right now, they may need to call you, especially after this last year,
So the wonderful thing is that we're nationwide. We have clients almost in all the states, and we can help. I've got over 300 open cases right now. You can check us out at IRS Trouble Solvers.com. What we do is in our name. We help people that have trouble with the IRS, and we solve those problems. You can call us at 877-4-IRS Law. Okay. So like I said before, we have attorneys, we have CPAs, we have enrolled agents on staff to help you. We put a customized roadmap together for you in your situation on how we can help your situation. Make sure, even if you don't call us, get someone that's a professional, that's a CPA, an enrolled agent, a tax attorney to help you if you think that problem is that bad. Even if you don't use us, make sure that you get your problem handled.
Yeah.
That website again, Gary, is IRS Trouble Solvers.com. And the telephone number is 877-4-IRS Law. Okay.
So everybody remember that? 877-4-IRS Law. Okay. And you've got the website, IRSTroubleSolvers.com. And Ben, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you again for taking your precious time out of your day. I know you're extremely busy, 300 cases, but you're calm, you're collected, and I'm not surprised you're so successful. So it's been a real pleasure, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say thank you again. And I'd love to have you back sometime also, by the way. So
maybe next time we can talk about doing some planning and doing using some strategies to reduce your tax debt. Here's the thing that I would tell people, because I teach CPAs how to do tax planning. A plan is just that, something for the future. You cannot retroactively plan easily. Okay. If you've ever heard of something called a 1031 exchange and you get into it, it's easy to mess it up unless you follow the rules properly, and you can't start it unless you plan to start it. So there are ways that you can defer taxes. There are ways that you can, eliminate taxes, avoid taxes, and things of that nature. I know that we're talking about representation today, but maybe next time we can talk about what are some strategies that I can give your listeners to use today, right now, to help them save money, protect themselves, and help them in the future.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And I really appreciate the offer too. And so everybody listening, thanks again for participating. Also remember, go to the website, realestatewithgarywilson.com, and you'll see Ben's podcast out there when it gets published with his contact information and website, phone number, the whole 9 yards. And also, while you're there, make sure you check out the members area. If you haven't already, it's free for 30 days. You can connect with a couple of certified investor agents, grab some free books, tools, calculators, spreadsheets, everything you possibly want. And then go ahead and subscribe to Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, to the Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. Until next week, take care of yourselves. God bless, and have an awesome day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.